Greetings, soul wrappers of sentient jam. Let's pretend this is normal. Let me tell you a story. A tale so cosmically asinine that even the howling stars considered unionizing. Drafting a petition in supernova script just to formally disown this timeline. A tale so drenched in incompetence and flaky betrayal that it could only begin, of course, with a rumor about discarded croissants. Not burned, not expired, discarded, as if buttery perfection were a suggestion and not sacred law. It was, frankly, an act of war. Now, to the untrained mortal, this would be a small thing. But to me, to Cthulhu, an outer god with a sacred love for anything French pastry-based, no, this was sacrilege. So when Hermes whispered through the library vents that someone was throwing fresh croissants away behind the Ethereum Floor 7 cafe, I reacted as any rational pastry-respecting cosmic horror would. I teleported immediately, rage-coiling through space-time, straight into the elevator. The fact that Hermes was whispering through my walls didn't even register until much later, when I realized that interdimensional mailroom access is not, in fact, a valid excuse for haunting my ventilation system. Anyway, dear listener, the elevator doors closed, and for one dreadful air-conditioned moment, it was Relia all over again. My tomb, my prison, my windowless bureaucratic abyss. Only this time with softer lighting and fewer cultists sobbing into cold shells. The lights dimmed and I felt it. The sudden vacuum where my eldritch powers used to be. The squirming itch of suppression. I wasn't just trapped, I was mortally trapped. A screen flickered on, and there he was, Zeus, in my office, sitting in my chair, holding my Necronomicon upside down and trying to look competent, like a toddler pretending to do taxes with a cursed relic. The sheer gall, the monumental gallstone of hubris lodged in his divine intestines. My chair hadn't even cooled, and here he was, desecrating every sacred surface with his thunder-stained mediocrity. If pettiness were an energy source, I could have powered 10 collapsing realities off the incandescent spite erupting from my every tentacle.
Hiya, Cthulhu. Listen, just a quick thing, real casual. Funny story, I've disabled your powers, locked you in an anti-eldritch elevator, totally temporary. Don't panic, I just need a teeny favor.
I stared at him the way an ancient god stares at a collapsed star, trying to perform improv, silently, judgmentally, and while vividly compiling a short list of legally ambiguous ways to annihilate a thunder deity using only a stapler, a vat of expired ichor, and spite. I considered siphoning his divine essence into a cursed jar labeled mayonnaise and hurling it into the cosmic recycling bin. My fingers twitched with the longing to summon a dimensional shredder. I imagined Hera watching the replay over popcorn as Zeus got folded into a non-Euclidean geometry lesson on hubris. And in that moment, I was the angriest librarian in existence. And he was overdue material with legs. Zeus leaned forward.
You've got that paternity test scroll, right? The one about Thalia? Look, Hera's gonna scry my records any minute now, and I really need to know if she's mine before I get turned into a goat again.
So this was the plan. Entrapment by pastry rumor. Disempowerment via cursed HR texts. Emotional blackmail from the most insecure sky daddy in existence. And now, here I was, powerless, trapped, my dignity unraveling like a cursed sweater caught on the jagged edge of divine farce. For the first time in several eons, I tasted the bitter metallic flavor of helplessness, served cold, like cafeteria ambrosia, and garnished with Zeus's smirk. It was humiliating. It was infuriating. It was, somehow, drafted into policy. Naturally, I tried to vaporize him through the screen. It sparked. Nothing happened. He grinned.
Cool, right? I used your own Necronomicon to trap you. It has this section labeled Containment for Idiot Eldritch Events. Figured it applied.
He said, with the smugness of a god who thinks strategy means yelling louder and logic is just a rumor started by Athena to ruin brunch. I nearly tore through the screen from sheer contempt. You incompetent celestial frat paddle, I seethed. My voice dipped in the kind of venom that curdles prophecy. You Bronze Age blow-dryer with the decision-making skills of a concussed pigeon. You thunder-fondling, toga-draped embarrassment to metaphysical taxonomy. You evolutionary backspace. You divine misprint scribbled in crayon on the back of a cursed scroll. You walking midlife crisis with lightning bolts taped to your hips. You temperamental spark plug in sandals. You unfinished group project in the Pantheon's group chat. I have witnessed lichens with greater leadership potential, and mold spores with more cohesive battle plans. You absolute grease slick of divine nepotism. Do you honestly think you can contain me with my own Necronomicon, wielded upside down like a divine menu at a Tartarus Applebee's? Your idiocy is not merely an event horizon. It is a recursive singularity of stupidity, collapsing thought into whimpering mush every time you open your sanctimonious thunder-flapping gob. The elevator jolted and came to life, as if powered by my rage, and it began moving upward. Zeus's voice returned, laced with that insufferable smugness usually reserved for middle managers who've just discovered the reply all button.
So, feel better now? Got it all out of your system? Because, this elevator does go all the way to infinity. And since I've got your office or your powers and technically your nameplate, I might as well take over as head librarian, right?
Something in my essence snapped. Not metaphorically, literally. Several cosmic seals I keep for emotional emergencies cracked open. You, head librarian! I shrieked with the voice of 1,000 overdue prophecies, and the unfiltered fury of a librarian whose archives have been filed in Comic Sans. You gelatinous ego polyp with delusions of competence. You thunder-clapping line cook from the divine cafeteria of bad decisions. You celestial gym sock of unwashed destiny. You brainless cosmic coupon booklet stapled together with hubris and daddy issues. If you do not unglue yourself from my desk, I will unwrite your name from the tongues of stars, alphabetize your entire pantheon under embarrassing side quests, laminate your birth certificate in passive aggression, and replace every temple built in your honor with a cursed vending machine that only dispenses bees, vengeful bees trained in administrative sabotage, armed with clipboards, unpaid internships, and a burning need to reorganize your failures by fiscal quarter. And yes, I will reply all in an email with your paternity test results attached to it. And that was when I noticed her, Aphrodite, already there. Evidently she'd been riding along the whole time, lurking in the corner like apathy-made flesh, radiating the kind of disdain usually reserved for scented candles and unpaid dating apps. I had been so incandescent with rage that I'd failed to register the divine embodiment of emotional detachment scrolling memes across from me. She crossed one leg over the other and sighed like a cat forced to share a room with tambourines. A lazy two-finger wave. From the corner, I turned. Aphrodite. Legs crossed, brows unbothered, ambrosia phone in hand.
Been here the whole time.
She said without looking up.
You were busy frothing.
I looked at her incredulously. And you didn't intervene. She scrolled.
Why would I? It was like watching a squid do Shakespeare in a blender.
I narrowed my gaze. You let me monologue at the walls for 7 minutes,
8.
she said.
I timed it.
There was a pause, thick with tentacled judgment.
Zeus said I was technically supposed to seduce you.
She added, dropping her phone into her lap like a lukewarm prophecy.
But I forgot the briefing halfway through. And honestly, I don't care enough to rewatch it.
I stared, and this seduction plan included what? Whispering forbidden syllables and tossing your hair at me until I complied? She flicked her bangs.
Tried. Got a strand in my mouth. Gross. Not worth it.
I sighed. You Olympians have weaponized disappointment.
Thank you.
She deadpanned.
We practice.
I folded my arms, the elevator groaning with suppressed dimensional fury. So what now? You lecture me on emotions, offer me a cursed coupon for self-worth. She looked up, finally, eyes flat as divinity left on read.
No, but I just wanted to see if you'd cry. And you almost did.
She added.
Right around the part where you threatened to laminate Zeus's soul.
I adjusted my posture with mythic dignity. I stand by that line. She smirked, barely.
It was hot.
Correct. She sat down, pulled out an ambrosia phone, and scrolled through cursed memes. I stood in silence, dripping cosmic contempt. Then the water came. Poseidon appeared overhead with the confidence of a man who thought most problems could be solved by being wet near them. He raised a ceremonial amphora like he was about to bless a mythic baptism and bellowed,
"Flooding protocol, go!"
Several gallons of ocean water dumped into the elevator like divine overkill. The result? I became slightly more comfortable. I'm a squid. Poseidon gave a pleased nod.
Hydration achieved. Threat neutralized.
I didn't move. I simply breathed, and then spoke. You realize this isn't how anything works. This is literally my element. It's like giving water to a water Pokemon. A pause. Poseidon tilted his head.
Is that bad?
Zeus's voice cut in over the intercom, bold and overly pleased with himself.
No, it's symbolic hydration. Emotional reset. You were pacing. That's an aggression cue. So we flooded you. Boom, de-escalated.
You flooded me, I said slowly, in a sealed container, with seawater, while I'm aquatic. Zeus doubled down.
Exactly. It's immersive. You're not yelling anymore, right? You sound way calmer.
I'm breathing better,
Progress!
Zeus barked.
That's results. That's trauma-informed mythic leadership. I read one article.
Poseidon held up the empty amphora like he wanted a sticker.
Should I get more?
No, I said.
Yes.
Zeus corrected. Poseidon looked between us.
So,
Let's not micromanage.
Zeus rushed in.
We pivot. We adapt. Phase 3. Scented lightning.
Poseidon lit up.
lavender,
Yes.
Zeus said proudly.
Thunder. Spa blasts. Trademark pending.
Aphrodite floated above the rising tide like a model too bored to drown.
Is this what men call strategy?
There was a pause. Zeus's voice cracked over the intercom, loud and defensive.
Okay, wow, that's rude. This is actually a very sophisticated multi-phase contingency protocol.
Poseidon nodded.
yeah, it's a plan. We're in phase 3 now.
Aphrodite blinked slowly.
You just dumped water on a squid and now we're in an elevator to nowhere.
Zeus cleared his throat.
Excuse me, an elevator to Azathoth's court.
Correction, I said. An infinite elevator. You said we're going to floor infinity.
Right, it's symbolic.
Aphrodite raised an eyebrow.
Of what? Failure?
Zeus powered on.
Look, you've got until we hit floor infinity to give me the scroll. Stakes, drama, tension, its narrative structure.
A pause. I spoke slowly, like explaining math to a soap bubble. You do realize, and I know you haven't cracked open a book since high school, so try to keep up, that if it goes to infinity, you're never going to get it right. Aphrodite smirked.
Infinity isn't a deadline. It's an existential prank. Like NFTs. Or Zeus's leadership.
Poseidon frowned, clearly trying to keep up.
Wait, so like, we're going up forever, just up, with no boss fight at the top?
Correct, I said. You magnificent barnacle. This elevator has the narrative structure of a tax audit in purgatory. Zeus let out a frustrated noise like a mythic duck choking on pride.
Okay, shut up. It sounded cool in the plan draft, all right?
Aphrodite leaned back against the wall.
So did Fire Festival.
The elevator groaned as it climbed. Symbols began forming in the walls. I felt the stirrings of the sleeper, distant flute music, the hum of pre-creation anxiety. I hissed. My tentacles twitched with editorial rage. Do you even know what happens if Azathoth wakes up? Reality folds. Narrative logic disintegrates. Causality gets replaced with interpretive dance. And all because you couldn't keep your lightning bolt zipped. I turned sharply toward the screen. If you wake the sleeper over a paternity test, I will personally redact your name from myth. Footnotes and all. Poseidon held up a hand, like he was trying to mediate a waterlogged family argument.
Okay, hang on. Azathoth's asleep? That feels like new information.
Aphrodite scoffed from above the tide.
You were in the meeting, Fishstick.
I thought that was just a metaphor.
Poseidon said. Zeus's face reappeared on the screen, visibly irritated and wearing a laurel wreath like it came with instructions he refused to read.
Okay, everybody calm down. I'm not waking him. I'm just taking us near his vestibule for leverage.
You said floor infinity, I snapped. There is no near. That's like saying we're just going to brush past a black hole. Zeus folded his arms.
We're not going into the dream. We're just riding the elevator next to it. It's metaphor adjacent.
Aphrodite side-eyed all of us while scrolling faster through her phone. I took a step forward. You're risking the unraveling of existence because you're scared of Hera reading your divine mail. Zeus pointed at the screen like I was being unreasonable.
Look, I just need the scroll, okay? One test. Thalia might not even be mine.
Poseidon muttered.
She definitely is.
Zeus glared.
You don't know that.
She has your eyebrows.
Poseidon said.
I have classic brows.
Zeus shot back. Aphrodite deadpanned.
You have liability brows.
I cut in, venom low and deliberate. Let me say this clearly, so the elevator walls can file it properly. If Azathoth stirs because of this tantrum, I will unwrite you, in alphabetical order, using scented ink. Aphrodite sighed, finally pocketing her phone.
Can I help? I have a stamp collection and a lot of unresolved rage.
Poseidon, who was now knee-deep in water and trying to poke the control panel with his trident, offered this gem of tactical brilliance.
So, can we, turn around? Just reverse the elevator. Hit the back to brunch button.
A pause. A long, echoing silence. The kind of silence that carries a clipboard and marks everybody present as spiritually absent. You can't reverse infinity, you kelp-kissed sea liability, I snapped. This isn't Mario Kart. There's no celestial U-turn. We are now committed to a metaphysical trajectory whose endpoint is either Azathoth's awakening or me violating several divine labor codes with your face. The elevator lurched again. Symbols began crawling across the walls. Letters without sounds. Scripts older than time. Grammar that made theology weep. My skin prickled with primordial dread. Aphrodite sighed, folding her arms.
Okay, that doesn't seem promising. I don't do flute gods. Woodwinds give me hives.
Poseidon, ever the Olympian optimist, glanced around at the flickering glyphs and rising flute music, like he'd just walked into a confusing dinner party.
Azathoth's not that bad, right?
He offered.
I always figured he was like one of the old sea titans. Big, weird, bit of a drinker. Probably throws a mean orgy.
The room went still. I turned to him, slowly. You think the sleeper who dreams reality into being is a retired ocean god who snacks on ambrosia and passes out at Dionysus's wine festivals? Poseidon nodded, pleased.
Yeah, you know, one of the primordial lads. Tentacles, fish, unknowable eyes. Bit of a recluse, maybe, but probably a softie under all the screaming.
Aphrodite didn't even look at him.
You're the reason Olympus has fire drills during eclipse season.
I inhaled slowly as the walls began vibrating in reverse grammar. Azathoth is not a sea god, Poseidon. He is not a fun uncle. He is the blind idiot dreamer at the center of all things. You don't offer him wine. You don't bring him olives. You don't invite him to a symposium. You let him sleep. Poseidon looked genuinely puzzled.
No gifts?
If he wakes up, gifts will not help. Only screaming.
And then the walls sang. They literally harmonized in a total chorus composed entirely of punctuation marks, and the sound your brain makes when it tries to understand tax law. I recognized it instantly. I mused bitterly as the worst outcome was coming to fruition. We've hit floor foreshadowing. Delightful.
What's that?
Poseidon asked, now aggressively attempting to drink the rising water like that would solve anything. It's where the building starts warning us narratively. Every floor from here on out will escalate reality, like a teenage demigod escalates drama. Loudly, irrationally, and with lots of unnecessary transformation sequences. Zeus's voice crackled through the speaker, but this time it didn't swagger. It wavered.
Okay. Let's maybe stop the elevator. Let's just reverse, hit the bottom, rewind reality, whatever.
You first, I said. A long pause.
Is there a button?
I closed my eyes. No, Thunderjock. There is no button. You're not on a tour. This isn't a divine Uber. You built an elevator that only goes one direction, toward the sleeper.
Right.
Zeus muttered.
Okay, no big deal. We adapt. We problem solve.
Another pause. A breath.
How do you use the Necronomicon?
I didn't respond right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I needed a second to come to terms with the question. This was the equivalent of handing a toddler a loaded gun and asking them to defuse it with a crayon. Step 1. Stop holding it upside down. He didn't respond. Step 2. Learn Alien in the next 30 minutes, or we're all going to die. Zeus was quiet for a moment. Then,
Well, why don't I just hold it up and you can read it?
I stared at the ceiling like I was waiting for reality to quit. You want to point the Necronomicon at me while trapped in a sealed, moving containment box, surrounded by rising eldritch resonance, in front of Azathoth's vestibule. Zeus hesitated.
I mean, yeah, easier, right?
I took a breath that bent gravity slightly. Zeus, that book does not show things. It does not display information. It extracts comprehension by force. It tears your mind open, finds the part that still dreams in symbols and rewrites your ability to perceive verbs. Another pause.
So holding it up is bad.
If you hold it up any closer to me, I will be reading your internal organs in reverse alphabetical order. Zeus audibly scooted back.
Got it. No display mode. That's clear.
I folded my arms. The Necronomicon is not a whiteboard. It is not a collaborative document. It is a self-aware archive of forbidden memory that once tried to sue itself for libel.
Okay, but just like hypothetically, if I turn to page 1...
Page 1 is a lie. Page 1 is always a lie. It only appears to be the beginning so you feel safe. That's how it lures you in.
What about the table of contents?
That is Azathoth's spleen. Zeus whimpered. The book began to hum again. So did the elevator walls. We were out of options, and very, very nearly out of time. The lights flickered. Time dilated. I could feel Azathoth stirring. The elevator's floor count began displaying mathematical symbols not seen since the last time algebra committed a crime. Aphrodite floated higher. Poseidon tried to use his trident as a snorkel. And I embraced the pettiness. If I go down, I whispered, smiling with a librarian's righteous madness. I'm dragging Olympus with me, alphabetically, chronologically, and with footnotes in passive-aggressive infernal ink. And then, the elevator stopped. Everyone froze. Even the reality-singing walls fell silent, like a sneeze that forgot how. A new voice echoed into the chamber, smooth, hollow, unforgivably calm.
Identification. Unauthorized elevator excursion. Please present divine credentials, blood of origin, and a signed note from the architect of all things.
What?
Poseidon croaked. A spherical eye blinked open in the ceiling.
You have arrived at floor Azathoth's vestibule. Please remain silent while the sleeper contemplates your relevance.
Oh no,
Aphrodite whispered.
we're gonna get judged by a god who doesn't even have sentences.
Zeus, I loudly proclaimed into the void. If I survive this, I'm going to reclassify you as mythological refuse and send you postage due to Tartarus. The screen crackled.
Does that mean you're not giving me the scroll?
I screamed, and somewhere in the distance, Azathoth twitched. The kind of twitch that rewrites causality in 5 dimensions and makes time itself check the terms of service. Everyone froze. Aphrodite slowly set her ambrosia phone down, like it might explode. Poseidon whispered a prayer to himself that sounded suspiciously like, "Don't let my trident turn into a fish again." And then salvation. The intercom crackled, sharp, biting, no nonsense, like divine litigation.
Zeus, what have you done?
Hera, the queen of Olympus, matron of marriage, goddess of retribution and filing cabinet access codes. Her voice could strip paint off celestial scrolls and make warlords beg for quiet jobs in customer service. Zeus audibly gulped through the intercom.
Ha hey babe, fancy hearing you. I was just, handling a little paternity thing. Casual, divine paperwork, no biggie.
No biggie?
Hera's voice dropped an octave. Quiet, judicial.
You locked an outer god in a containment elevator rigged to Azathoth's vestibule, and you've been using his office like a divine man cave. I found a lightning-burned Necronomicon propping up your foot. Explain.
Silence. The kind of silence where 1,000 backup timelines hold their breath. Zeus scrambled.
Well, technically, I did temporarily disable his eldritch powers, but I was gonna put them back. I swear on Hestia's crockpot.
Swearing on Hestia is a war crime in 3 pantheons. I reminded with the weight of exasperated divinity, glaring upward like my hatred might breach divine shielding. Hera continued, her voice coming down like a final ruling.
Enough. I am revoking your containment privileges. I am restoring Cthulhu's power. I am unlocking the elevator. And I am sealing the Necronomicon from your access until the end of this reality cycle.
A wave passed through the elevator, silent, sharp, and absolute. My power returned in full. The symbols stopped warping. The flute stuttered, then cut. The Necronomicon shivered in place like it had just been grounded. Zeus whimpered.
You will also apologize.
Hera added.
And return every artifact you stole, including the humming one you liberated from the Forbidden section. I heard it singing the song of the Void Marriage Pact.
I thought it was a snack.
Zeus yelped.
It was humming in C minor.
Zeus,
Aphrodite deadpanned without looking up.
you don't know what C minor is. You think Allegro is a pasta.
There was a crashing sound through the intercom, as if Zeus had just thrown a chair at the concept of music theory.
You shut up.
Zeus!
Hera said, in the tone of a volcano filing for joint custody of the stars.
You now have 60 seconds before I reassign your dominion to Dionysus and rename your temple the Shrine of Eternal Consequence.
I nodded, voice dry. She renamed a fertility cult the Waiting Room last solstice. They still haven't recovered. The sound of divine scrolls igniting, sigils clashing, and one thunderbolt undergoing an existential reboot filled the speaker. Then, mercifully, the elevator dinged. The walls stopped singing. The flute music died with a final wheezing toot. The lights snapped back to corporate awkward. With a groan of eldritch hydraulics and an attitude problem, the elevator began descending. Poseidon collapsed against the corner wall, gasping.
Oh, thank Poseidon. Wait, that's me. Cool.
Aphrodite floated up an inch and flicked dust off her ambrosia coat.
Tell Hera I owe her a cursed macaron. Raspberry vengeance flavor. It bites back.
The intercom clicked again.
Cthulhu.
Hera said, now sounding like a goddess who had personally alphabetized every disappointment in her marriage.
I apologize for my husband's idiocy. You are free to file a formal complaint. The paperwork has already been indexed under P for Paternity Test Purgatory. I'll handle Olympus. You handle Azathoth. Try not to kill my husband unless absolutely narratively necessary.
Noted, I said, straightening what was left of my dignity. A creased thing, folded too many times inside divine bureaucracy. The elevator sighed open. I didn't step out. Instead, I looked up at the intercom, still faintly hissing with Hera's divine presence. And I asked, softly, how long are you going to keep cleaning up after him? There was a pause, a long one. Then Hera replied, her voice quiet, not defeated, not angry, just ancient.
As long as Olympus needs me more than I need peace.
The line went dead. I stepped out into the hall, free, technically, which, for a god, is never the same as unburdened. Behind me, the doors closed with the finality of myth. And there he was, Zeus, still in my chair, still spinning in it, slowly, still holding the Necronomicon upside down, reading aloud like it was a bedtime story, and not a cursed relic of unfathomable consequence. He looked up, smiled.
Hey, buddy, pal, you made it. Took you long enough. I was just keeping the seat warm, you know? Little thunder, little chaos, little light reading. Don't worry, I didn't break anything. Except maybe time. And this pastry. Was that important? Was you,
I loomed over Zeus, who now backed away. Not with bravado, but like a child who'd finally realized the closet had teeth. Do you know, I said, my voice now filtered through time, regret, and divine licensing code, what I did to gods who defied me before I became a librarian. He trembled. I continued, slowly, lovingly. I unwound them. I peeled their divine flesh into ribbons of false prophecy. I fed their names to star things that do not believe in forgiveness. I blood-eagled their souls through the black between seconds until their prayers were written in fluids they didn't remember bleeding from. Zeus opened his mouth. I entered it, not literally, not fully, just a whisper, a presence, enough to make his tongue reject him. He vomited thunder. I was a horror before I was a librarian. I was worshipped only by those who dared not close their eyes. I wrote sanity out of languages. I buried gods beneath their own temples and made their believers dance until belief itself folded inside out. I knelt, not as mercy, as a statement of intent. And you, I said in a tone made of barnacle-crusted nightmares, trapped me in an elevator for a paternity test. Zeus broke. You could see it, his aura buckling, his myth cracking like a dropped amphora. He collapsed to his knees. His lightning bolt sagged in his grip like a wet noodle apology. He tried to apologize. He tried to say he didn't mean it. No, I said, you did. I reached forward. He flinched, shook, sobbed something that might have once been a prayer, and then I took the croissant from his hand, bit into it, chewed. Then I smiled, soft, ironic, dangerous. Well, good thing I learned some restraint, huh? And just like that, the horror slipped back beneath the skin. Light remembered its duty. Reality stopped holding its breath. Zeus crumpled backward in a puddle of sweat and divine regret. I stepped past him like a librarian passing a shrieking romance novel, unconcerned with the noises it made. I returned to my chair. My chair! The Necronomicon curled back into my palm like a sleeping viper. The croissant, bitten but victorious, sat beside it. Balance, if not justice, had been restored. Then, a slow clap. Aphrodite, still perched on the front desk, legs crossed, phone in hand, deadpan as a disappointed oracle.
Wow.
She said.
Didn't realize this was gonna turn into a divine TED Talk.
She slid off the desk like ennui given motion, brushing past Zeus's twitching heap.
Hey, champ.
She muttered as she stepped over him.
I'd say walk it off, but you might need to crawl this one.
From the doorway, a sigh.
Was that really necessary?
I raised an eyebrow. She held up a finger.
Rhetorical question. Of course it wasn't. But also,
She tilted her head.
I kind of loved it. Very thorough.
She flipped a page on her clipboard.
Might want to dial it back next time. You triggered 6 labor code violations, 2 prophecy breaches, and I think you temporarily reversed Poseidon's puberty.
A beat,
Still,
she added.
not bad for a librarian.
I nodded. I try. Aphrodite looked up from her phone.
Lunch. Reality almost coming undone makes me hungry.
I stood. Sure. Zeus whimpered from the floor. Poseidon had just walked by, tending to his brother. Aphrodite nudged him with a sandal before turning to leave with us.
You'll live, probably.
And with that, we exited the scene. 2 goddesses, 1 outer god, and 1 HR audit away from divine litigation.